Today's webinar, Caring for the Mission of the Society of Jesus Post-COVID-19, will begin in just a moment.
Dear Jesuit companions, dear participants in the mission of the Society of Jesus throughout the world, I welcome you to this one-hour meeting with our Superior General, Father Arturo Sosa. I am Pierre Bélanger, journalist and Jesuit, a member of the communication team of the Curia. Father General has chosen to use again this way of communication with all of you, the webinar formula, that is more lively than just the distribution of a document and allows for interaction. The format of this one-hour program is simple. First, a message from Father Sosa, and then a longer period of conversation with you based on the questions that you can send through the same software that you're using to connect with us. Let's say that this was the technical introduction. Let's go to the heart of the matter. I begin by greeting Father Arturo Sosa on your behalf, and I thank him for his availability and his simplicity with which he dives into this current communication way of doing. Welcome, dear Father General. As facilitator of this program, my role is to help people to stay focused on the theme of the webinar. During this hour, we want to deepen our understanding of the letter of 25 March that you have written to the whole society about cura personalis and cura apostolica, Latin words. But very concretely, and in direct connection with what is uniting people all over the world at the moment, I would describe our theme as follows. At this time of COVID-19, we want to take care of each other and to take care of the people with which we live and we work. It is then appropriate to listen to our Superior General explaining to us how to live these ways of doing and being, these modo de proceder of the society, Spanish this time, the care of the persons and the care of the apostolic activity. Your questions are essential. At the same time, you understand that they are formulated from a very typical specific context and that you cannot expect answers to local situations. In fact, the team here will do its best to choose the questions that are broad enough to be meaningful to as many people as possible. We ask for your indulgence if we cannot address all the questions. So here we are. Now, dear Arturo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for being there. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the transformation of human life demanded by the changing times we live in. But we still don't know how deep this change will have to be. The pandemic has highlighted the importance of care, the Jesuit word cuidado in Spanish, in many dimensions of our life. It has brought to light so much neglect accumulate over decades in the way human beings have related to each other, to nature, and to God. We can learn from it how caring for oneself and caring for others is intimately related. On the feast of the Annunciation, as Father Pierre has just said, I wrote to the whole society a long letter on care of or cura in the governance of the society's life mission at this change of epoch. I invite you to read it slowly and attentively and to discuss in the communities and also in the apostolic works about the importance of maintaining this creative tension between care of the apostolate, cura apostolica, and care of the person, cura personalis. We also need to talk about the dangers of failing to exercise this cura, the dangers of a lack of care, whether for our life or for our mission. The neglect of one leads to the neglect of the other. The charisma, an authentic way of proceeding of the Society of Jesus, preserve these tensions between both. From the time of his incarnation right through the Easter, Jesus shows a radical commitment to the care of a creation in need of reconciliation. Acting in history, he continually cares for his own. He shows this in his apparitions to Mary Magdalene, to the disciple of Emmaus, and to the apostles. Jesus takes care of them. He calls Mary by name. He tells the disciples where to cast their nets for fishing. He prepares the food they need after the work. He opens their eyes and warms their hearts so that they can see and feel the signs of his presence. Giving the best of ourselves to the mission requires us to nurture, to take care of common discernment and apostolic planning enlightened by the universal apostolic preferences. In them, we find concrete indications to link up the care of the apostolate with the care of the person. Taking care of our spiritual life allows us not to get lost in the path to God that we are called to show to all human beings. That's the first preference. Caring for the life of the discarded takes on a profound meaning at this time. Their number has multiplied exponentially as a consequence of the unjust structures of our world. Our global structures seem incapable of putting human beings and the common good at the center of local, national, or global political decisions. This is our second preference. Accompanying young people is a continuous exercise in learning about what it means to take care of the present and future of humanity. Here is where the meaning of our life mission is constantly renewed. This is our third preference. The neglect of nature has been laid bare during the pandemic of COVID-19. To continue to neglect is the greatest of the responsibilities of humanity that has come up against its fragility. We have received a big wake-up call about the need and also the possibility to respond as one single humanity without distinction of culture, age, or religion. This is our fourth preference. Returning to the Ignatian sources has allowed us to reread Ignatius' life as an experience of being cared for and being invited to care. In the autobiography, Ignatius shows how he is led and cared by God himself. The spiritual exercises are the mystical journey for God's care and God who is committed to the vocation of the human being whom he cares for through the incarnation, death, and resurrection of Christ. Everything in thus contemplated ad amorem, and the constitutions in their parts 4th, 8th, and 9th are nothing other than the commitment of those who govern to preserve and care for the body of the universal society in function of the mission. The letter I wrote in March builds on the rich reflections of the ex officio letters of 2018. They make it clear that the difficulties in the areas of cura apostolica and cura personalis stem mainly from a separation between the two. When we have this duality, the path is taken to a separation of competences between the local superior and the director of the work, and this path does not help in the care of the mission. To take care of the mission, the Society of Jesus needs to take care of the people who make it possible and who form his apostolic body. For this reason, it is urgent to learn to collaborate with laymen and women, with the diocesan clergy, and with other religious men and women so that we can all work together as a body, taking care of others and allowing ourselves to be taken care of. Caring requires opening processes of open-mindedness and conversion to free us from clericalism, paternalism, individualism, and authoritarianism, which are found in so many current contexts. To care and to allow oneself to be cared for is to grow in the universal society. It is an essential part of the culture of our apostolic body. The process of restructuring the governance of the Society of Jesus has highlighted the role of delegation in the exercise of authority in the apostolic body as a way of maintaining the tension of cares in all dimensions. In large administrative units, both demographically and geographically, some people receive delegate authority to accompany different areas of life mission and ensure their care. Other complementary forms are added that help in the coordination of apostolic areas, in the accompaniment of the development of the apostolic plan, or in the articulation of communities and works in a given geographical area. In the letter, I point out some immediate steps that we can take during this Easter season. Each Jesuit, as well as each companion in the mission, can ask, what can help me to grow in that transparency and honesty that arise from the interior freedom and Ignatian indifference? I ask local superiors and director of works, Jesuits or lay, to take initiative to help communities and works adopt spiritual conversation or similar form of exchange as the usual way of discussing matters that are central to the life of the community or apostolic work. Each Major Superior can ask himself, how can I grow in my capacity for in-depth dialogue with the members of my province or region and with the companion in the mission who have responsibilities in it? We are faced with the challenge of building a culture of care through in-depth dialogue among companions in the mission. This means that while maintaining the maximum respect for the conscience and vocation of each one, we want to create an atmosphere of discernment. This discernment will illuminate the apostolic planning of each work and how it fits into the overall plan of each province or region in the light of the universal apostolic preferences. Let us make the most of the experience of the COVID-19 pandemic to be able in the next stage to overcome any lacks that exist, either the care of persons or our care of the apostolate. We want to put care, the cura, at the very center of our very heart, of the way we relate to each other in the life and mission to which we are called. I now look forward to engaging with you, to hearing your comments and questions.
Thank you very much, Father General, for reminding us of the essence of your letter of 25 March to the whole society. Within this document, you wanted to give some answers to the challenge of knowing how to put together the attention, the care for the persons, and the attention to be given to the apostolic ministry, the cura personalis and cura apostolica. I think that we now have a better understanding of what these two Latin expressions of the Ignatian tradition can carry or imply. Everything, as you said, is a matter of care in our relationship with one another, but more broadly with our environment, the natural and the human environments, I would say. And it is all based, you said, on the care we take of our relationship with God. And you have twice in your message explicitly linked the theme of care of the mission of the society to the apostolic preferences, that we talked about last time we met. You had urged us to understand and live the UAPs as a whole, interrelated among themselves. So you insisted today that the cura personalis and the cura apostolica should not be understood separately of each other, but they should be the object of the common goal of the mission of the society. That's quite interesting. And of course, as the title of this webinar announced, you encouraged us to make the link between the mission of the society and the unique situation that we are living, experiencing in the world at the moment because of the COVID-19 pandemic. You see it as an invitation to take even more care of, or better care of our relationships with one another in order to fulfill our mission. So here is the time for dialogue with the webinar participants. We have already received some questions, I see, and you who are listening, I invite you to send even more questions that are related to the theme that Father Sosa has developed. The first one here comes from Slovenia, and it is quite basic, I would say, and it is based on one important theme of your letter. It looks like you have invented a new concept, life mission, hyphenated. Would you tell us a little more about this, about your choice of this expression?
Yes, I have to confess that I was looking for another word, and because my fear in conversations with Jesuits and others, when we use the expression life and mission, we have the tendency to separate life and mission, even if and is a copulative preposition. So I was looking for another word that can express the inseparability between life and mission for us. Our vocation puts everything together there. We cannot, it's like a coin with two faces. We cannot separate the two faces of a coin. So our life takes its sense from the mission, and we give our life to the mission, and the mission is the nurture of our life. So that's why since we start our path to the discernment of the preferences, I use the expression life mission. I wrote a letter about that in 2017.
Thank you. Some of the questions are coming from lay people. Clearly, I see one here. Many lay people have been united to the mission of the society from apostolic work because they have an employment link, ties. So for lay people who do not have this type of bond, who are united by bonds of Ignatian spirituality, how can they support the mission?
It's the best way. I think the link for this, the link we are looking for, is not an employment link. We have many people that is employee of institutions under the responsibility of the society. But what we are looking is for partners in mission, people employed or not, that get in touch with the mission from the spirituality, from the vocation, no? Because they hear a call from the Lord and they say, okay, this is our place in the life. Our place in life is to collaborate in this mission with others and also with Jesuits. So this is the real link we need. No, if they can be, and there are so many employees in our apostolic works that they don't feel identify with the spirituality, and that's also is illicit. Is a way of doing things. But when we talk about partners in mission, we are talking about people who identify their life with that mission, that also we identify with our life and mission.
Thank you. A question that is maybe for the political scientist about secularism. How to reach out to the society which has seen the depletion of faith along with the economic strengthening. So the economy is better, but it seems that it means that people are less inclined to the faith.
Well, that should be not a link between poverty and faith. No, even if we say that for poor people it's easier to trust God, because people who is not poor can trust in their own capacities or in their money. So really the faith is a challenge for every human being in any kind of condition they are. The faith, the word says, is to really trust in God and not to put our trust in other things, no? In other, in our institutions, in our capacities, in our wealthy, whatever. But we trust God, and because we trust God, we can be guided by Him.
And some of the questions are more on the practical level. There is one here that's interesting about the young and older Jesuits in the same community, and how to look at the cura, personalis, of the needs, especially of the older people, and the desire of activity of the younger ones. Age variety within the Jesuit communities is causing difficulty. Older members require the community to be locked down, for instance, at the moment, but younger members can be apostolically effective. Might the society consider a holy, he says, a holy and temporary separation so that the older Jesuits keep safe and the younger can continue to be apostolically active?
Yes, that's a very nice example that we have lived in many communities around the world in this period of the pandemic, this tension. This is a very example of what means the equilibrium between cura personalis and cura apostolica, because we need to preserve the life of ourselves. So without missionaries, we cannot have mission, but we cannot just isolate ourselves and leave the others just to do what they can. There are many ways of resolve this tension, no? But we cannot forget one of the poles. We cannot put at risk the life of our elders or our young companions, and we cannot be away from the apostolic engagement. There are many good experiences in all these months. How young people and also elders have find ways to be in touch with the people and to help and to listen and to be voluntarily also the first line, and to preserve the health of the community, because we know, no, when one of the community gets the virus, is probably all the community will have it. That we have also some examples of that. So again, this is a nice situation to show the inseparability between cura apostolica and cura personalis.
I go to another question that is related to the religious communities, and we'll come back to something that is more related to the work. But now here is about the extended, the terms of office that are extended. I mean, Is there extended terms of a superior over and over, or a director of work over and over? Would it contribute to the abuse of power and misunderstanding of the society way of doing? Is there a problem there?
Yes. At more we separate the roles of the superior or director of work, the more we try to specify that you are in charge of this and you are in charge only of this and you are in charge only of this, we make a battlefield. No, we are preparing real a war. No, we are in the battlefield. That's why the director of work is responsible for cura personalis as well as cura apostolica. So the director of work is not only a manager, no, that have to achieve some goals of the institution. No, he's a leader of a team. He's a leader of people who is engaged in the mission. He has a vocation like the others. So he has to be in charge of the life of the people who is working. He cannot achieve the goals of the apostolate if the people will die in the process. And in the other side also, the superior is not a grandmother. No, it's not that has to prepare the soup for the tired people coming from the job. No, he's responsible for the mission of the society in a community or in a region or in a district, whatever. So both directors of works and superiors are responsible of the two dimensions of the cuidado, of the care.
That's interesting, because at the same time, I think you answered another question that was related more to the fact that a lay person can be in some ways responsible for even maybe a coordinator of regional cooperation or a regional work. And the person is asking here, is this person, who is he or she, is she expected to exercise cura personalis of Jesuits in the regions?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
you have already in some
Yes.
ways answered
Yes.
to that there
Yes.
is a role
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
no, the cura personalis is not the
The
exclusive.
account of conscience.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not only the account of conscience.
No. It's the life of the person and how the person can develop. And maybe many lay persons, especially women, does that kind of care better than men and Jesuits, because many times the women has a perception of what is going on in the life of the other that helps a lot. So no distinction between lay and Jesuit, no distinction between people who is in charge of an apostolate or a community or a team. So everyone in the body, has the responsibility of the whole body, of the life of the body.
Mm-hmm. Something that is challenging about collaboration. Does this idea of cura apostolica that we are developing, that you have developed in your document, keep us bound to thinking in terms of institutions, and institutions that are ours, or Jesuit institutions, as opposed to more freely collaborating in works that are not ours?
I think both, and that's one, I think, is one of the tensions of the society looking to the future, because now most of the Jesuits are very committed with institutions that are Jesuit institutions, because funded by Jesuits or by a responsibility of the Jesuit. But I think as the development of the apostolic task of the church and the society goes to the future, maybe there will be more different ways of doing this. And we have a lot of Jesuits collaborating in institutions that are not responsibility or property of the society. And I think collaboration is a concept that tries to get all these things together. What is a kind of how you understand yourself in the service of the mission, because the mission is bigger than the society. No, the mission is also bigger than the church. No, it's the mission of Christ. The mission that God's mission is the reconciliation of all things in God, in Christ. So it's bigger than us. So we cannot reduce our thinking and our connection only with the small things we can do with our hands, our feet. So collaboration, I think, is a big challenge for the future of our society and also of the church.
And in fact, this theme of collaboration is also linked in some ways to the fact that we are collaborating with people who are not of the Catholic faith, for instance. So someone is asking, how do we, it's there, how does, is it possible to apply this idea of cura apostolica when you are dealing in an environment and with people or in an institution where the large majority of the people involved in it are not of the Catholic faith? And there is I can ask immediately a question about more precisely about a JRS country manager in Bosnia who says that the vast majority of the JRS Bosnia staff are Muslim, for 13 countries in fact. Please advise us how to bring an apostolic word to them, how to make a bridge between the word of Jesus and who they are.
Well, I think that's a nice paradox in the history of the Society of Jesus at this moment and looking forward. The Society of Jesus is growing in the areas of the world where Christianity is minority, no? Africa and Asia. So this will be our normal context maybe in a couple of decades. No, we will be majority. The society will be majority. The majority of the society will be working in non-Christian context, or context where Christians are minorities. But when we say the word apostolate, we are not expressing a work, an institution, a school, or a parish, or a social center. When we say apostolate, we refer to our first Christian community. No, they were apostles. They were, by their life, by their testimony, showing the good news of the resurrection of Jesus, of the giving the life for resurrection that Jesus did. We can do that in every context, and that's the mission. And what put us together, people who is from different faiths, we put together a mission, no, and a way of understanding the humanity that, taking away the faith we believe in, humanity can be better, can be just, can be. When in a refugee camp, we are not asking who is coming about his faith or race or age. No, it's a people who is in need, and also the voluntary, the people who serve in the refugee camps. They come because they want to give a hand. They want to help people without asking so many questions. So that's the deep concept of collaboration, because there's a core in human beings that can put us together to contribute to a better world.
Mm-hmm. We come back to Jesuit communities and Jesuit questions, because there are several of them, and a couple of them are about what we could call fragile Jesuits. A director of work has professional competence in his field, which the local superior does not often have, for instance. So the director of work then feels that he does not have to communicate or ask the advice of the superior because he knows more. The superior, on the other hand, is concerned with a broader vision of the society and of his man, including the men who might not be the best at all times. And a related question with this, it seems to me, someone else, that sometimes in our governments we sacrifice the concept of magis in the practice of cura personalis. So we take care of someone who is not so good, but we keep him there. What I mean to say is that we tolerate members and sacrifice effectivity. What would you say to this?
Well, the first thing I will say is all of us are fragile. All of us. No? We can say that in very different languages. Normally in the religious and Christian language, we are all sinners. No, that means we are all fragile. We have all have limitation. We don't have every moment in our life the same energy and the same enthusiasm or the same clarity of what to do. So that's we are a group of persons with limitations and with great capacities, also with limitations. Also, the superiors are very limited. Also, the superior general of the society is a fragile man. So every one of us are. So we get together, yes, to do it better, to help each other to do things. That's why the mission given to us is a way to energize the group and to don't left anyone behind. Anybody has to be behind. When I was hearing the question, came to me the image of the first circle of Jesuits, of Christians, of disciple of Christ. If you take the 12, no, they are people so different and very fragile, and each one reacts in very different ways. And Jesus give them the big responsibility. What you do will be support, approved by God, and what you don't do also. So that's our way of proceeding. We are not asking advice to a superior because he's a great psychologist or because he's an specialist. It's because he's a brother. He's a brother that can understand you, that knows you as a companion, and you are not going to him as you go to a medical doctor or you go to a specialist to any other thing. You go because you trust in your brother and because your brother has a mission of taking care of the community. No, that is entrusted to him by the whole body, by yourself, by the community. So when we say companions in the Lord, when we say companions in mission, we can underline companions. Companion is a kind of affectivity, is a kind of being really near to people, no? And so specialists can do something, but the very affective closeness is what really creates a body.
I like the insistence that you put and the meaning that you give to this word companion. For me, it means a lot as a Jesuit. The theme of clericalism, you did not touch it directly, but apparently someone thought of it looking at your letter or listening to you. Challenge of clericalism and paternalism in the church and in the society. It's there. Pope Francis has said it so many times. Could you give us some orientations as to how to address these challenges, clericalism and paternalism, in light of your vision of the delegation of delegating not just to Jesuits, but also to women and men who work with us?
Yes, clericalism and authoritarianism and personalism, individualism, all these isms comes from how do you say, a sick relationship between us. No, when power is what you are looking for or you are exercising consciously or unconsciously, and the way is really to live like brothers and sisters, no? And the idea of delegation in Ignatius' way of understanding the organization of the society is very interesting in that sense. So Ignatius used all the time the image of the body. No, a body, as we know, a body is very different organs, and so many, and but each one is needed for the body. No organ of the body can we put aside. So it's a body, and the authority in the society, in this organization that we call the Society of Jesus, in the idea of the constitutions written by Ignatius, the whole authority is in the body. No one in the body has the authority. It's the body who has the authority. As the society of Jesus get together in the general congregation, that's the body. And that has the whole authority. And the body delegates the authority in first term, the superior general. Enough authority, delegates enough authority so he can move forward the whole body. And then the superior general delegates the authority in the way that is needed to move up to the mission in very different ways, regionally or for functions or for Jesuits or for now for so many lay men and women and other religious. So delegation is very important to a superior, to a director of work, to see himself as a delegate. A delegate always have to be accountable, because he's not the owner. He's not the owner of the direction of a center. He's not the owner of a university. He's not the owner of a parish. No, he's a servant. No, he has been there as a delegate of somebody who has in charge the mission. So, to be a delegate and the delegation is a way to avoid authoritarianism and to avoid individualism, because it's not yours. So that's why the concept of delegation in the conception of the society is very important. And also I can add this, because delegation is very flexible. They are not our structures are not written in the stone. We can change in order to respond to the challenges of the persons, as Ignacio says so many times in the constitutions, to the person, the times, and the places. So that delegation is really a core concept of the way that Ignatius conceived the organization of the Society of Jesus.
Since you talked about Ignatius and you came back to the founding documents, I changed the order of the questions that I had in mind, because there is one here that says, in what ways can we learn from the first companions' openness and transparency, especially the transparency that is needed for spiritual conversation? So is there something that comes from the beginning of the society, from our first companions, that could help us?
Well, they learn by the way of the facts. No? The first companions were very stubborn people. No? They were not the easy people, our first companions. So they were very convinced that they have to go to the Holy Land. That was their objective. No, we want to go to we have to go. That's our mission, is to go to the Holy Land and to live where Jesus has lived. And the facts, give them they stop them. And many of you maybe remember, if you have read the documents of the General Congregation 36, that is this image of the first companion before founding the society in Venice, convinced that their mission were to go together to the Holy Land, and they cannot go to the Holy Land, because they have a kind of situation like we have now. They cannot move from Venice, because of the war, and whatever. So what they do, they began to talk to each other. They to have a spiritual conversation, to deliberate, but not to deliberate to find the best idea among them. Is to hear the Holy Spirit, to be guided. They all of them had a very deep experience of God through the exercises. So they were touched by the way of praying and looking and the will of God. So they began to look the will of God for the group. How? Talking around, and they deliberate for a while, and they say, let's go to Rome and put ourselves at the service of the one who has a bigger vision than ours. no? And that's the way we can understand how the Spirit is asking something to us. That's what we have done as the Society of Jesus in this moment after so much time.
Yes. Something that has related to the mission of the society, that we have defined our mission in terms of reconciliation. And someone tries to make a link with this. We live in a world that is profoundly divided, both on the political spheres, but also even within the church, we could say. So how can we leverage, balance, probably that means cura personalis and cura apostolica, as a way to bring about healing and reconciliation in the church? Is there something to help reconciliation, this balance between these two cura?
Sure. In Latin and in the Latin languages, health, salus, salud, and salvation, are the same word and the same root. So healing and reconciliation are very near. The reconciliation, according to St. Paul's, is the healing of the world. The redemption of the world is to reconciliate all things in Christ. So reconciliation is, and that's why you cannot separate cura apostolica and cura personalis. You cannot do only one thing. We cannot only do to reduce the emanation of gases of the engines. No, it's not only that. The ecology or the equilibrium or to reconciliate ourselves with the environment is more complex than that, and personal things there are material things there is complex. The unity of the humanity that is feeling and material, all that is, you cannot try to separate, and that's a problem of our way of thinking in the scientist way or the illustration way, that we need to separate to understand. But we separate to understand, but we know that it's not separated in the real terms.
We have a number of questions. It's hard for me to choose at some point, but something related to the youth here. I read it, I work with young adults in London, United Kingdom, and I am very consoled for accompanying them in this unique time in history. Similarly, I'm also aware that the post-COVID-19 will pose serious challenges for young people in terms of unemployment, for instance, financial stability, or existential purpose maybe. How do you envision the Jesuit mission of giving hope to the young people after this time? And it is related to something that I read about India, especially, where maybe the younger people are even are struck even stronger.
I take a little bit of air, because I think it's not because of the COVID. This situation about the big challenge for young people for getting employment is not because of the virus. So it's a big problem before. You know, a couple of years before I participated in the synod for the youth, and there was a lot of reflection about all the challenge that the young people have behind their life, to really can achieve the minimum for living, employees, a family, a house, housing, and all that. No, that's a big, and that's the pandemic in this moment. The great advantage is that showing that so clearly that maybe we can understand. No, maybe because we can also forget very fast what happened in our past. But this is our situation. I think the hope, we are not giving hope to young people. We are finding the hope together. That's what the preference said to us. We will find the hope together. They will not maybe find the hope by themselves. We will not find the hope by oneself, but together we can find the hope for the future. And I think that it's real. There are so many problems and challenges to young people, but also the person who who made that question maybe has also the experience that the sensibility of young people also brings them the opportunity to find different ways that we can imagine. No, we have our eyes are used to see in a way, and normally we need to use also the eyes to to see. No, they have more clean eyes in this moment of their life, and together we can find the real approach to the future, so we can really try to contribute, hopefully, to a better relationship between all the ages.
There are several questions that are related to the pandemic situation, and one that is quite directly related to what you just talked about is, can you give us some examples of key questions, this time not answers or solutions, but questions that on which the Jesuit social centers could focus for the coming post COVID-19 time?
Well, I think for me a big challenge is about democracy. About democracy.
Yes.
No, you have read maybe so many insights about how the pandemic is also hitting the democratic institutions and the democratic way of making decisions. No? And I think in the post on this, what we have to learn of this is, if the people is not convinced of what to do before a big problem like this one, you cannot just simply make a decree, or you cannot just push people. No? You have to convince people. People have to take their own responsibility. People have to become citizens. In which sense? No, it's about care. No, I think many people have in this moment has understood that if he don't take care of himself, he's taking a risk for the people that is love for him. No, if I love my father, I stay at home because I don't want to put him in risk. No, so to think not in you but in the society. That's being a citizen, is to be really to be able to put the common good before my particular interest. So that's one of the points we as messengers of the human life we have to give. How help the people to really be aware of the common good, to become citizens, global citizens in this moment, because we know now that the one thing can really affect everybody in the world. And this is the basis of a democracy. Without citizens, you cannot have democratic institutions and democratic way of making decisions. So when I say the challenge of democracy for our social centers, our social thinking, and having this perspective, no, how we really can ourselves be aware of the common good, of the global common good, and how we can help others to have that kind of conscience.
This is a very good field of research for our center. An easy one this time, you know. It comes from India. It says in the post-COVID world, there will be an important focus on health. So should we not get into medical profession, most of them, of us?
Maybe some of us will do that, and we have people. We have some of our brothers and many other people engaged. But again, I will connect this with a comment I made before. Health is not only physical health. No, it's the health of the person and the health of the society. So when we talk about health, we talk about healing. It's not only to heal the person who is infected of the COVID-19 or every other uh, disease, but we want to heal humanity. That's what Jesus did. You know, Jesus healed or opened the way to heal humanity, and we are all in that sense. We are all of us. We are in the medical path.
Very interesting. I will feel myself more as a doctor after this.
You can be also a nurse.
I have something that comes from the novices in Genoa here in Italy. How do you think the Ignatian Jubilee of 2021, he's a novice, so he's thinking about the future, not just
right.
the past, will help us to walk on this path of apostolic and personal care? You see a relationship with the Ignatian year?
Yes, the Ignatian year was promulgated because we are convinced, I am convinced, that if we go deeper in the knowledge of how God really guide the life of Ignatius, we can understand also our life as persons and as the whole society and the whole church. So we start with a wounded man, you know, in a war, and we finish with a person who is able to guide a body that is extended, a small body extended all over the world. So there's a path that he didn't imagine never in his life. That really was a path that was possible because he was led, he was taken care by the Spirit. And that's what we want, to grow in a body that can really be open to be led by the Spirit.
The time allotted to us is coming to an end. I realize that we have not been able to answer everything. There is one nice comment in French, you know. Votre commentaire sur la participation des laïcs à la mission est très apprécié. Very appreciated your comments about the lay people. Thank you. Well, so Father Arturo, after touching on a number of topics that we did during this last hour, what would be the main point you would like to emphasize to come back? Or what would you like the participants to this webinar mostly to remember?
To remember that this webinar do not substitute the reading of the letter and the spiritual conversation in the communities and the spiritual conversations in the apostolic work. No, you cannot now put aside the papers. Okay, I heard the general, it's okay. No, my message is, this is I hope I have been able to interest you in this complex problematic, and you as persons, and you as communities or apostolic teams will go deeper, and you will teach me what you what you will find in your own spiritual conversation.
This openness, humility, certain person would say, is quite inspiring, I would say. So, on the behalf of all those people who have been participating in this webinar, I want to thank you very much, Father Arturo, for your presence among us. I thank you for expressing your clear desire, not only in words, but also in deeds, like participating in this kind of event, to be close to your companions and to all those who participate in the mission of the society. At the moment, you cannot travel, but people can be assured that you are never far from them through prayer. I would like to thank also the production team of this program, both in the studio and in remote locations. And I wish everyone courage and resilience as we continue to face the COVID-19 pandemic. Our message to conclude this hour is simple. We do care for you, and we count on your care for us. Have a good day, a good evening. Arrivederci.
Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Caring for the Mission of the Society of Jesus Post-COVID-19.